Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. First off, I want to thank everybody that has clicked over and watched any of the Rockville coverage that we had for the 5 days, the camping, and the 4 days of the event. I think we picked up a few hundred new subscribers over that time, and I do want to thank each and every one of you for being able to take time out of your day, watch some of the videos, and then even more so for those that click subscribe or click to interact. Very much thankful for that. If you are new to the channel at all, we do Rockville every year, but we do a host of other content as well, including theme parks, sports, a lot of haunt type stuff, Halloween-y type things. So it is a little bit of a mixed bag of what you get on the channel. It's not all of one thing. But more importantly, with regard to the Rockville videos, none of the videos that I uploaded that had any performance pieces included in it at all were monetized at all. So you should know the way YouTube normally works. When you see ads on a video, normally the creator of that video is getting any type of revenue, etc. But we put up the Rockville videos every year without monetizing the videos, and quite honestly at risk of having copyright strikes thrown at us. What ends up happening, the folks that put out the music, the artists and their publishers, they have all rights to any of the footage and the music that's included within, and it's up to them, whether it's through automated process through YouTube, that they identify a song and they claim the video, and they could put ads on the video themselves and the money goes to those folks, or they could just strike the video altogether, in which case, like they would say, you know, someone's using my stuff without my permission. In turn, you get 3 strikes on your channel on YouTube and you no longer have a channel. So we put the content up at great risk, because we have close to probably over 2,500 videos at this point, 10-year span. We've been going to Rockville for the last 10 years as well, at least putting footage up on the channel since 2014 at this point. And the reason why we do our Rockville videos and include little snippets here and there is because we started this channel. One of the main reasons was to share what we love doing, and we love going to Rockville. It's a labor of love to be able to either shoot those clips and edit the stuff and put it out there for folks to enjoy also. And quite honestly, it's also very rewarding when we've gone to Rockville and we've met so many folks that have said that they've gone to Rockville, or this was their first, or they started going, you know, over the last couple of years because they've watched these videos here. That type of messaging, we're not getting a commission from Rockville whatsoever, but it's great to know that we've turned other people on to stuff that we love. Having said that, though, it is incredible reading through some of the comments. I can't keep up with all the comments. I work a full-time job, and I'm also trying to put out the other video content. I will circle back to answer more comments throughout the videos as well, but the comments have essentially turned into like a blabbermouth post as of late. It seems like there are some folks that will hate on this festival regardless of what Danny Wimmer Presents does. When the weather's been bad in the past, we hate Danny Wimmer because of the weather. When bands cancel or can't be there and they're replaced by somebody else, we hate on Danny Wimmer. When the weather's perfect and we have 150 bands, there's no cancellations, and the concert goes on as planned, there's still something else to complain about in the comments. It is truly, truly remarkable. In fact, here's a few of my favorite comments that we've received so far. Probably my favorite hater comments are around the pricing of the event and saying how much of a ripoff it is, and that it's a bunch of corporate folks that are just stealing your money, and we're a bunch of sheep for spending the money. I do want to just point out again that we buy our tickets for Rockville every year before the bands are even announced. We just know that we're going to the festival, and then when the bands are announced, more power to us. In the past, they've announced bands that are going to be playing in the future and taking like $10 deposits at the festivals on the last day of the event. They didn't do that this year. But overall, there was over 150 bands that were scheduled to play this year. The opening price ticket for a 4-day pass at open, if you get tier 1 pricing, was $234 a ticket. $234 for 150 bands. That breaks out to $1.56 a band if you were watching all of the bands. Over the course of the 5 days, we saw 49 bands cumulative between myself and Mary. That equals to $4.77 a band. If you want to think that that's corporate pricing or a ripoff, I'm not sure what to tell you. I have not seen even bar bands at this point for less than a door cover of like $20 to get in. Individual concerts these days range pretty much minimum $50 to $100 to get in. We looked at Aerosmith tickets when they play Amway coming up. They were like $400 a ticket. Some of the bigger bands that are out there, I mean, we get 4 major headliners plus other bands that are supporting as the kind of co-headliners at Rockville. So that value of $234 for 4 days worth of music, I don't know where you can beat that. We did get one comment that really jumped out at me this morning where I was like, holy shit, have we hit like new tinfoil hat like level of commentary? And I did want to call this one out especially because see how many people have unlimited money they can just throw away. The United States economy is just fine. Half these people come home and get on Twitter talking about how it's so tough right now and how they can't afford rent. Laugh my fucking ass off. And that's exactly what the government's doing, laughing. The American people aren't hurting for money. Quick, another $2 billion for Ukraine. The people will never know that they're busy spending thousands of dollars on another 3-day music fest. Keep on letting the government know how rich we are. This is what folks think when they're posting comments on a music festival video. Do you think that the United States government is looking at how many people are buying tickets to Welcome to Rockville? And that's how they're deciding where they should be spending money to fund wars? It's a little bit about the other pricing, because other comments that we got were around like, I can't believe the shirt prices. I can't believe the drink prices. I can't believe the food prices. Yes, in 2024, everything is expensive. A McDonald's Big Mac meal is like $12. I'm not blaming that on Danny Wimmer Presents. If you've gone to any music concert recently and seen t-shirts, they're about like $35 to $50 a shirt. Do you have to buy one? No one's forcing you to buy anything. But the reality is, if folks are not in tune with how the music business works these days, musicians aren't making money based off of streams. Who's buying records these days? Are you going out and buying a CD? Very few people are buying vinyl. Most people are using Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, things like that, and listening to music on demand. Per 1,000 streams, these bands are lucky to make like maybe $10, $20. They're not making any money based off of the product that they're putting out. And they normally would make money based off of either concert tickets, and only part of that goes to the artist, by the way, because the artist also has to pay the venue, insurance, police, things like that. So they're making money off of merchandise. If you want to support one of the artists that you're going to see and you enjoy, you might want to buy a t-shirt. That money goes directly into their pockets. Although having said that, some venues are taking money as a percentage of the sales of shirts at this point too. Food and drinks, I'll give you the fact that they're astronomically expensive. But to also look at it a little bit further away, at a larger scope, uh, if you go to any type of public event, whether it's a concert or a sporting event, theme park, etc., you're paying a good $6 for that Gatorade or Powerade or your Coca-Cola or your water and things like that. Those are the prices that people are paying at this point. If you go to a Live Nation event, I think down in Tampa at the amphitheater, and you buy a big beer, it's like $20 or more. So paying $13 for a domestic beer at Welcome to Rockville was in line with what you'd expect at any of these other places. And as far as the food vendors, they are super expensive, that is for sure. But we got an ass load of food, literally and figuratively, whenever we would go to one of the food vendors, with the exception of $10 for a tiny cup of ice cream. But the food vendors, they pay money to the venue or to the promoter to be able to have their stand there, and they're incorporating that cost plus the extra cost of all the inflation. Let's talk about $12 Big Macs again, and they've got to make that money back somewhere. They're not giving their food away or their product away for free. They have staff to pay and overhead costs as well. Probably the cheapest thing throughout the weekend that was worthwhile was the blackened hamburger meal from Metallica, where they had the little Happy Meal type thing. And it was a burger, fries, and a soft drink. So a full 20-ounce bottle of like Coca-Cola product for $21, which theoretically is $10 more than a McDonald's meal, but it was more of a gourmet type hamburger that you were getting and not necessarily like a fast food type of burger. Or $28 if you included the alcoholic drink, which, by the way, if you bought that drink separately, it's like almost like $18-20 to begin with. So you're pretty much almost getting the full cost of your meal included for the drink that you're buying. One other important thing to note is that while the water bottles were $4 a piece, you could get free water from multiple water stations the entire event, as much as you want. The one miss that I'll give folks is that the free water, similar to Warped Tour, if I'm dating myself, but if anybody remembers Warped Tour, they always had free water at the event also. But you could also get like free ice or ice throughout the day if you were to buy like a cup that Warped Tour was selling. There is no ice, especially for free at Rockville, so you're getting room temperature water throughout the event, but you're getting water that's filtered. Same thing as what you're buying for $4, but you're just getting it. You got to wait on a short line and fill up your thing. They even allowed people to come in with hydration backpacks, so they were allowed to do that when they weren't allowed to do that initially. So as far as the pricing, I just don't see that complaint. That said, there were some differences this year with vendors, so things that we were used to seeing year over year. The Checkers van has been at Daytona, at least since they've been doing Rockville at Daytona. Checkers food truck, meaning like they just consistently kept cooking Checkers fries and giving them out for free to folks. So there was no freebie food type things this time around. In years past, we also had like free gummy sharks or free other things that were handed out to folks as far as like little freebies to kind of snack on and things. Like nothing like that this year. I didn't see the Black Craft booth come back this year. The music experience booth was shrunk in size to what it's been in the past. There were vendors like Strung that make the guitar string bracelets that we didn't see those guys come back as well. I'm not sure why some of the vendors didn't return back. I mean, maybe Rockville is charging more year over year for having their booths there, or why some of the booths shrunk down. I will say the music experience booth was a favorite in the past. Also, I think Revolver magazine used to be there as well, and maybe that's just a result of Revolver not selling as much product and needing to scale back. Also, they did add Dixon flannels this year in place of Revolver magazine, and Dixon had a couple of artists signing, and the Jägermeister folks were back this year, or I believe that they were there years past, but they're back this year at least with an interactive tent. They had Kerry King signing there at least one day. Overall, though, I would say that signings are something that is desperately missed from years gone by. Going back to Jacksonville days, They had an FYE tent with bands that were there on the regular, that as long as you bought like a CD, the bands were out there signing for like the duration of however much long it took them to get through things and meeting and greeting folks. That type of aspect is sorely missed these days, and something that they did for the last couple of years at the music experience tent as well, but I did not see that taking place this time around. I do want to talk about the bands for a minute too, because 150 bands this year was bigger than the event has ever been before. The band selection I thought was really good also. It ran the gamut of everything from hip-hop and rap to kind of like older metal or rock to new stuff, to screamo stuff, to hardcore and punk. There was something, I think, for everybody on this bill, at least a couple of bands that you could find for the genres that you really enjoyed to see. I think in addition to the selection, the quality of the artists that they pulled in was really top-notch also. And there were some hidden gems in there that folks just haven't either seen in years or haven't seen at all. And then you got some returning guys also that seemingly are at every Danny Wimmer festival, either every year or every other year. They're always on that endless loop. Which, I think at this point, kind of coming out of this year, is probably fine, because you start to realize like how many folks have not been to a Rockville before or to one of these big type events. This year introduced a 5th stage, and I'm on the fence about how I feel about having 5 stages altogether. I imagine you need 5 stages for the amount of artists that you have. They seemingly started an hour early, or an hour earlier this year with the event each day, and went until just about midnight every night as well. And I think in years past it had started a little bit later, and it ended between like 10 and 11 o'clock at night. And last year it started to creep over towards like 12, and this year it was full on, like bands going almost up until midnight every day. So it's a super long day. A lot of walking. Folks have asked us like how much did we walk over the 5 days? And we did 52 miles in 5 days of walking. And a lot of it was the first couple of days. And then after that, I was just feeling it. Like my body was broken. My feet, I had, and I won't share pictures, but like the worst blisters I've ever had in my entire life. And just needed to keep, we brought one for the days that we were camping, med kit, and just continued to keep bandaging stuff every day. And ibuprofen was our friend. Backs killing us also. It's a lot of walking and a lot of dirt eating. I saw on Facebook over the last couple of days a lot of folks that were sick post show, either from COVID or kind of call it like the fest flu. Everybody's together in a packed in place, and the ground, for the most part, all dry grass and dirt, and the dirt is flying constantly. So every time you watch one of the videos that we shot footage from those days and you see like this haze, that's not like a haze on the camera. That's dirt that's just flying around everywhere. And that dirt's in your nose, it's in your mouth, it's in your throat every day, and throughout the day, and especially at night and in the morning, just hacking that stuff up. You blow your nose, and without being completely disgusting, it's pitch black when you're blowing your nose and everything. So, however, the 2 new stages that were kind of situated by Turn 1 entrance, they were situated on like the pit road exit into Turn 1. Fantastic stages. The stages were great. They were opposite each other, and one of the biggest things to me was the fact that they had AstroTurf carpeting down in between both of those stages. It was kind of like plush carpet that you were able to walk on, and more importantly, sit on through the entire day, or be able to flip back and forth between the stages to watch things. I love the new stages. The one thing I didn't like about one of the new stages is and I can't remember, it might have been the Vortex stage. If you're facing this way, or you're facing this way, and the Octane stage is probably like a good 500 yards to the left of the stage, if there's two bands going at the same time and this band is on a break, you hear everything that this band is playing. And when this band resumes, the octane stage is still louder, and you can still kind of hear two different things happening at the same time in stereo. That is one thing that needs to be fixed for sure for next year. The other further stage, which was the kind of like the smaller stage throughout the last couple of years, the garage stage, which is over towards like the turn 2 entrance through like gate 70, much smaller stage, and the sound was very focused right where the stage was. Instead of having speakers kind of going like this, speakers were very much like this, which created a problem with anyone that wanted to see and hear things optimally from that stage. And there were some banger acts that were on that stage, so everybody's super congested in that area, and it's also a giant dust ball and dirt, just constant. We ran into a bunch of folks, including a crew from Jack's that had been watching the vids back from 2014, and they were at that 2014 Rockville show, and asking, the big question for us constantly is like, what do we like better? Do we like the old school Jacksonville Welcome to Rockville days, or do we like the newer Rockville days? And it's a tough answer, because the old school Rockville days, I think you kind of over the course of 2 days, or then we get to like 3 days, you got like a max of like 30,000 to 40,000 people that attended the event, like for the weekend or for the days that were there. And now we're at a point where we're for 4 days surpassing 200,000 people. So the sheer volume of people and needing to navigate that many people to try to get around everything, enjoy stuff, it's a detriment. But the positive is the size of the bands and the quantity of bands, the quality of bands has greatly increased. So it's a tough trade-off. I do miss the old Jacksonville days for sure, and the intimacy of things. I can't see the event ever going back to that, though. When I was a kid, I used to dream of going to these types of events, like when you'd read like Kerrang! Magazine or Circus or anything, and they would talk about like Castle Donington Festival in England, and they got these bands, these massive cards with like Iron Maiden and Ozzy and Kiss and everything all together. You'd be like, holy shit, like, why don't we have things like that here? And then in the late 80s, we had the Monsters of Rock tour with Van Halen, Scorpions, Metallica, Dokken, and Kingdom Come. And like, that was kind of the first realization of like, this dream could actually happen. But then having these festivals like we have today, those are like dream come true. And I don't think you can go back and put that cork back in the bottle and go back to smaller events like they used to have in Jacksonville. I think the spirit of those smaller events lives on in things like Earth Day Birthday from WJRR, and like the real, the iHeartRadio events that they have like around the country, or 99X, I think, in Jacksonville and stuff, like smaller single day festivals. I will say the one thing that the bigger crowd, the detriment of that bigger crowd invited in was more problems like pickpocketers. This year, if you guys have not seen this in the news anywhere, like huge problem of pickpocketers, especially in like the mosh pits and getting closer to the stage when you're packed in like sardines. These folks are scoping everybody out and stealing phones and wallets and everything. And the Volusia County Sheriff Department did a great job at recovering a bunch of those things. But what a giant problem. And I think part of the problem was also resulting in a result of the fact of inconsistent security measures throughout the weekend also. So coming in from the camping side for 4 days, virtually no check whatsoever on what you were bringing in. You had a clear backpack, and folks would just ask you, instead of even visually looking, and say, do you have any spray bottles for like aerosol sunscreen? No? Okay, good to go. You could have had a gun, a knife, or anything else and just walked right in and not had a problem whatsoever. Zero cares for that. But we know other folks that came in through general parking and had every last thing kind of looked at. but then other pieces like umbrellas and chairs and things were being let through the door. It was wildly inconsistent about security until Sunday, and then security took forever to go through every last item. And then the last thing that I can touch on is around camping. The camping experience this year for me, much better than last year. And I did see comments from folks that said, like, I thought you weren't going to do that again. And quite honestly, we weren't going to do it. We had a rougher time last year in Orange, and I get it. Like, people are going to a music festival and they want to party and they want to keep that party going all the time. But when you keep that party going until 5 o'clock in the morning and you're inconveniencing other people, you know, there's two sides to every story. There's people that are partying and say, like, hey, you're at a festival. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. Is like, and the other people are just like, you know, at some point you got to be able to sleep. And I did see this year where some folks that were sleeping because they were up until 6 o'clock in the morning were super pissed at the people that were up at 10 o'clock in the morning and blasting their radios and carrying on because they were trying to sleep at that point. So it's kind of a can't win thing. But I will say that we stayed in Silver this year instead of Orange. And Silver was a joy, the campsite. We had great neighbors on both sides. And in fact, up and down the aisle. The only detriment to the staying in Silver was the showers and the lines to be able to get in. But I think that's probably a good thing to know that all of your neighbors are actually wanting to be clean. But for the most part, Silver camping was a joy. We really enjoyed that, and still had the ability to be able to jet out the Turn 4 tunnel and go across the street. The one thing that I could say, or two things. One detriment was we did pay to have the second car in the Turn 4 parking overnight for camping, which is supposed to be able to let you go in and out wherever you want to go and return back with your car. And this year they were saying that you weren't allowed to do that, and it seemed like a general clusterfuck of confusion between DWP team and the security team at Daytona International. So after the first day, we just left the car there, and we would not do that again. The other piece was camping seemed to be way oversold. When I did leave Sunday morning to head back home and be able to go see Slipknot by returning and driving and parking on Sunday night, leaving the campground on Sunday morning gave a great perspective of seeing so many different complaints from other folks that said that they were trying to find parking and or camping sites and things, and the things were oversold. There were campsites that were in the road. There were campsites on top of other campsites. It was just people kind of everywhere. And I'm chalking that up. I don't know any details around it, but I would assume that was just a disconnect between DIS and the DWP folks. But it kind of just led credence again to what we said in the video prior to going to Rockville. Get there early, get a space when the place opens, and get yourself secure so that you're not in that mess in the long run. One thing that they implemented, or one thing that they brought this year to the campsites also was like the cereal bar in the morning. I want to say it opened at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. You got 2 bowls of cereal and milk for $5. You couldn't beat it if you wanted some quick, easy breakfast. And folks, they were super nice, and by Saturday and then again on Sunday, if you wanted cereal, it was literally free. They were just asking like, hey, just give Second Harvest Food Bank a donation, whatever you think it's worth it. Free ice cream, free breakfast, and free drinks and stuff like that. So super awesome. I thought that was wonderful. And they also had like MP4 or videos of Saturday morning cartoons and beanbags, so you could sit around watching cartoons while eating your breakfast. All right, and last up, let's talk about the best bands that I thought were there this weekend, and I got Mary's feedback too. The top 5 bands that I thought, in order, best band of the weekend, from my perspective, was Foo Fighters, and then Mr. Bungle, Slipknot, Electric Callboy, and Insane Clown Posse. And the worst band for the weekend for me was Theory of a Dead Man, hands down. And Mary's best bands for the weekend, Slipknot, Foo Fighters, Judas Priest, Electric Callboy, and Anthrax. And Mary had a special mention of Insane Clown Posse also because she didn't get to see a lot of that show because she was watching Judas Priest. I have seen Judas Priest many times and figured I needed to see ICP. That's kind of the way the scheduling worked out for us. Like, if we've seen a band a bunch of times, kind of skip that to see a newer band this time around. So that's why a lot of folks were asking, like, no Disturbed, no this, no that. Like, we've seen those bands a bunch of times, and there were other people to watch instead of it. Like Kerry King, his second or third show altogether for a solo band. To me, that was a no-brainer choice over Disturbed. And Mary's worst band of the weekend was Mudvayne. If I didn't think Theory of a Dead Man was as bad as they were, I would certainly say Mudvayne was right up there too. Although I would say, to his credit, Chad Gray singing live. You could tell he's singing live, and he's struggling to do it, but he's doing it. As opposed to so many of the other bands that use so many tracks throughout the weekend. It is refreshing, at least, to see Mudvayne still plugging away and doing it live. And so, thinking about next year, this year, second time in a row that there were no announcements of any bands coming. And I know folks asked us, did we hear any other rumors or anything like that? Like, we ran into Danny Hayes, Ashley, Danny Wimmer, etc. We don't have any inside information for who's going to be at Rockville for next year. I would only say that they were playing a lot of AC/DC music in between bands and a lot of Pearl Jam. And in years past, that's always kind of been like little crumbs or Easter eggs of who potentially could be there in a follow-up year. But no band announcements. And also no down payments. Years past, they also had a booth set up so that last day of the event, they would take your $10 payment to start your annual payment towards your Rockville tickets, but not this time around. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure we'll be there again next year, regardless of who is playing. To me, you can't beat the value, and you can't beat the family and the friends that you've met along the way. So many cool people out there that we've been able to say hello to and chat up, and we love music, so we're going to be there. On that note, we're going to get out of here. Thanks a lot again for watching. If you made it this far, you deserve a little virtual award. But thanks a lot for coming along. Thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and subscriptions. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Have a great day. See you guys.